He shaped the sound of a generation, but never stood in the spotlight. While the world watched others shine, he quietly built the soul of their music, hidden behind studio glass, surrounded by wires, keys, and melodies that would echo for decades. This is the untold story of Benny Andersson, the quiet architect behind ABBA's rise, heartbreak, silence, and extraordinary rebirth. And after decades of mystery, Benny has finally opened up, revealing a story far more emotional and human than anyone expected. Before the world danced to Dancing Queen or cried to The Winner Takes It All, Benny Andersson was already deep in the work, crafting the invisible foundation of a sound that would become timeless. Born on December 16, 1946, in Stockholm's Vasastan district, Benny grew up in a working-class family where music wasn't a career. It was tradition. His father, a civil engineer, and his grandfather, a self-taught musician, placed an accordion in his hands when he was just 6. That simple act lit a lifelong obsession with melody and harmony. Unlike many kids dreaming of fame, Benny didn't care about being seen. He wanted to understand. He studied Bach's mathematical precision, soaked in the storytelling of Swedish folk, and taught himself piano entirely by ear. By 10, he was playing at family events, not with flashy tricks, but with a sensitivity to emotion that set him apart. By 1964, at age 18, Benny joined the Hepstars, a Swedish rock band dubbed the Swedish Beatles. The band's sound changed almost overnight. With Benny writing songs like Sunny Girl and Wedding, they topped the Swedish charts, and Benny became the musical brain behind the operation. Then came a fateful night in 1966. At a party, Benny met Björn Ulvaeus, a member of the Hootenanny Singers. They clicked immediately, two musicians obsessed with harmony and structure. That jam session sparked a partnership that would shape music history. Together, they began writing songs for others, experimenting with styles and perfecting their craft. Benny brought emotion. Björn brought lyrical wit. Their balance was electric. By the early 1970s, their personal lives and music intertwined. Benny was with Annie Fridlingstad, Frida, a jazz singer with a powerhouse voice. Björn was with Agnetha Fältskog, a chart-topping solo artist. Together, the four formed a group under a hilariously long name, Björn and Benny, Agnetha and Annie Frid. They failed to qualify for Eurovision in 1973, but came back swinging in 1974 with Waterloo. The glam pop anthem won the Eurovision Song Contest and catapulted them to global fame. Soon after, they adopted the name that would echo through history, ABBA, formed from their initials. From that moment, Benny wasn't just writing pop songs. He was constructing sonic architecture. In the studio, he layered instruments like a painter with brush strokes, arranged harmonies with surgical precision, and experimented with synthesizers long before they became mainstream. He didn't chase trends. He chased timelessness. As Agnetha and Frida dazzled on stage and Björn wrote bittersweet lyrics, Benny built the emotional core beneath it all. His signature? A bittersweet blend, joy on the surface, melancholy beneath. You can feel it in Knowing Me, Knowing You, and Fernando. Catchy on first listen, devastating when you really hear them. Benny wasn't just writing songs. He was building a kingdom of sound. Through the 1970s, ABBA became unstoppable. But while the world saw glitter and glory, behind the curtain, cracks began to form. The first fracture came in 1979, when Björn and Agnetha divorced. It was personal, but the band kept going. While recording Super Trooper, the music still sparkled, but the atmosphere grew heavier. 2 years later, Benny and Frida followed the same path. Their connection had been built on music, but Benny's perfectionism in the studio left little space for emotional presence at home. In 1981, Benny confessed he'd fallen in love with television producer Mona Nurklet. The breakup was quiet but deep, and it changed everything. Their final studio album, The Visitors, 1981, is like an emotional snapshot. Songs like When All Is Said and Done and Slipping Through My Fingers are soaked in unspoken pain. The sparkle was fading. The group continued briefly, but something essential had already disappeared. Unlike most legendary bands, ABBA didn't hold a farewell tour or a final press conference. They simply vanished. Their last official single, Under Attack, came out in December 1982. But it didn't make waves like their earlier hits. No follow-up album, no final show, just silence and decades of speculation. Fans wondered, why stop when they were still on top? Was it money, drama, creative clashes? For over 40 years, none of the members gave a straight answer. Interviews were vague. Words like hiatus floated around. The mystery became part of the ABBA myth. Then, in November 2024, Benny finally broke that silence in an interview with The Guardian. There was no PR spin, no grand performance. Just honesty. We were exhausted, he said. Marriages were collapsing. The music felt forced. They had to stop to save themselves. It wasn't betrayal or ego that ended ABBA. It was emotional burnout, quiet, slow, and final. In April 2025, Benny told Billboard that those last years, 1981 and 1982, felt like workdays. The songs came slower. Sessions were shorter. The magic had faded, and he didn't romanticize it. He simply said, "We couldn't keep pretending." For fans, this was closure they didn't know they needed. The sadness in songs like One of Us, Like an Angel Passing Through My Room, and The Day Before You Came wasn't imagined. It was real. Benny's honesty finally gave that ache a name, exhaustion. After ABBA's quiet fade out, Frida surprised everyone. In 1992, she married Prince Heinrich Rosa-Royce of Plauen, becoming European royalty. The Swedish press couldn't believe it. The disco queen in a Swiss castle. But life as a princess wasn't a fairy tale. She struggled with rigid royal expectations. And in 1998, tragedy struck when her daughter Anne-Lise Lotte died in a car accident at 30. Frida retreated into silence by Lake Geneva, far from the spotlight. And during that dark time, it was Benny who reached out. Their shared past, the music, the heartbreak, the silence, connected them in a way no one else could. Then, the unthinkable happened. In 2018, ABBA reunited to record 2 new songs. The world was stunned. It wasn't just nostalgia, it was the spark of something ambitious. ABBA Voyage. By 2021, Benny and Björn had created a full new album, but it was the performance that blew minds. Instead of touring, they used cutting-edge motion capture and avatar tech to recreate their 1979 selves. Backed by a 10-piece live band, their digital concert opened in London in May 2022, and it became a phenomenon, selling over 1.3 million tickets to fans from more than 140 countries. And when a $1 billion live tour offer came their way, they turned it down. They didn't want to relive the past. They wanted to reinvent it. Now at 78, Benny Andersson has started peeling back the emotional layers he kept hidden for decades. He's admitted that music was his escape, his way of saying what he couldn't say in words. "I gave my best lines to songs, not to the people who needed to hear them," he said. He wasn't cold. He was scared, of vulnerability, of facing emotions that powered their greatest hits. And, ironically, it was that silence that ultimately undid the band. But now, by speaking openly, Benny has done what ABBA never did back then, given their story an ending. It was never about perfection. It was about survival. The music didn't protect them from their pain. It was how they lived through it, and maybe that's why their songs endure. Beneath the sparkle were real people, fragile, brilliant, exhausted, human. So, here's a question for you. How do you think ABBA's music would have sounded if they'd faced their emotions head-on instead of through their songs? Tell us in the comments. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the music.